evolution of how comics are made, do you think that's changed them for the better or the worse? Like, do you wish there was still a little bit of that handmade element to it?
It's changing. I wouldn't say it's for the better or the worse because it's not binary. You can pick and choose your tools at any time. Now, a lot of clients don't want artwork that's by hand. They want it all turned in digitally anymore. In fact, I was just having this conversation with one of my clients the other day about how strange it is that the editors no longer have their favorite day of the week, and that's when all the art comes in. And everybody sits down and opens the packages and the art comes out and they all look at it, oh, wow, that's great. Now it just gets uploaded to an FTP site and that's it. There are some things that the artists have to do now that we didn't have to do then. We have to do a lot of our own production work, all the cleanup. And that takes a lot more time than it used to. I just stick it in a FedEx box and send it off. But now I've got to make sure the work is camera ready and ready to go to press. It's got to be very clean, very tidy. And because I got into this business before digital, I've had to learn everything ass backwards. So I'm still learning digital stuff that is coming naturally to a lot of the kids coming up. I'm still learning digital painting. And a lot of my clients don't even want art paintings that are by hand. They don't want it because it's too difficult to make corrections and so forth. But if you want to do things by hand, you can go ahead and do them. But there are drawbacks, the cleanup and the inability to get the precision that some clients want, and if they want you to change a panel, it's going to take a lot more time. And some of the newer clients don't really understand that just moving around a panel means completely reorganizing or even redrawing an entire page. You can't just make it happen by pushing a button. They don't quite get that.
So Marie Severin, she's a close friend of yours. She was a pioneer in the comics industry. Do you still have, or do you still use Marie's tools?
I still use them, yeah. I use her pen points. Some of her pen points are about 100 years old. I still use some of her pencils. The reason why I use the older pen points, croquis points, and a lot of people probably don't even know what a croquis is, but it's a metal pen point, a dip pen. You put it directly in ink, and it's got a tiny little mark in the pen that creates a reservoir and the ink runs down it. And the old pen points are better because they're made with better metal, and some of them are actually plated in gold. And they last longer and they're more flexible. Some of them are made of brass. They just behave so beautifully compared to the new ones. And I hoard them. I know a number of artists that use croquills. They hoard them. We go to antique dealers trying to find these antique pen points, and we buy them by the gross, and I have more than 1,000 of them because I've got to have enough to last. This is my technique and I want to keep it. So when I drew Amazing, Fantastic, Incredible Stan Lee, which is Stan Lee's autobiography, I made sure to use her art supplies to draw the book. Some of her supplies are between 50 and 100 years old, and comic books looked the way they did back then because of the tools that were used to create them. They were using croquis pens, they were using brushes, they were using rolling rulers, they were using all these things a lot of people don't use that much anymore. A lot of comics are done on a computer. And the way that your tools behave on the ground, the particular paper you're using, defines how you're going to draw, and how fast you're going to do the work defines how the final product will look. A lot of the old creators had to draw very, very fast. Some of them were drawing 40, 50, 60 pages a month. We call 60 pages a month the Kirby barrier. And when I was working on Stan Lee's autobiography, I had to break the Kirby barrier. I got all the way up to 72. Now, you're probably not going to do your very best work doing 72 pages a month, and I didn't. But it was really cool to be living in that world and experiencing the way comics production was, the way the old men did it. You know, having to work in that grindhouse and not being able to just call up Photoshop and have a machine make all of your perspective lines and use models to you know, trace your figures like a lot of artists do now. You either draw it or you don't, and it better be off the top of your head. And that was really cool. It was a really interesting challenge. It takes you out of being precious about your art. It makes you just pure cartooning, just tell the story. So even though I can do this stuff on computer, I prefer the hand-drawn work. It looks better. It's got more give, more character to the line, and I like having my original art. It makes me feel like my art is a ghost when it's all in the machine. So I like the tangible quality of art. I even used to make my own paper sometimes. On a graphic novel I did with Neil Gaiman fairly recently, some of the art was done composite with some of the painting being done on handmade paper that was painted with oil emulsion or watercolor and then scanned in and combined with the drawings. I love the tactile quality of tools and process that comes from being part of the work itself and feeling it in your hand. I love that. The sensation is very important to me.